Mrs. Henderson's coffee mug shattered against the lab wall, brown liquid cascading over my 3 month project. But it wasn't the coffee that destroyed my robot prototype. It was her perfectly manicured heel crushing through the central processing unit 60 seconds later. What she didn't know was that my failed creation had just recorded her entire conversation with the school board about covering up sexual harassment complaints. And in 6 days, she'd be sitting across from the state education commissioner, completely unaware that the same worthless pile of circuits she'd destroyed was about to hand her career to me on a silver platter. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like some teen revenge fantasy, right? Well, buckle up, because 3 months ago I thought the same thing. Back when I was Maya Chen, MIT bound robotics prodigy with a spotless 4.0 GPA and a prototype that could have revolutionized personal AI assistants. Now I'm Maya Chen, the girl who couldn't handle the pressure and whose robot spontaneously combusted during what Henderson called a routine safety inspection. Maya, sweetie, Henderson had said that day, her voice dripping with fake concern as she surveyed the wreckage of my life's work. Maybe this is a sign that you're reaching a bit too high. Not everyone is cut out for the national competition. I'd stood there watching smoke curl up from what used to be Aria, my autonomous robotic intelligence assistant, and wanted to scream. 3 months of 18-hour days. 3 months of missing parties, dates, and sleep. 3 months of my parents asking if I was eating enough, if I was pushing myself too hard, if maybe I should take a step back and enjoy being a teenager. But Mrs. Henderson, I'd whispered because that's all I could manage without my voice cracking. The competition is next week. I can't rebuild this in time. Oh, honey, she'd cooed, stepping over Arya's remains like they were trash. I'm sure MIT will understand. These things happen in real research environments. It's a valuable lesson about the unpredictability of technology. Valuable lesson, my ass. What I learned that day was that when your mentor decides you're a threat, she'll burn your dreams to ash and call it character building. The worst part? Everyone believed her. My parents, my classmates, even my best friend Marcus started giving me those pitying looks that said, "Poor Maya. She was so stressed she didn't notice her robot was a fire hazard." Maya's always been a perfectionist, I heard my mom tell Mrs. Henderson during parent-teacher conferences. Maybe this will teach her that failure is part of the process. Failure. The word followed me everywhere. In the hallways, in college recommendation letters, in the rejection email from the national competition. Suddenly, I wasn't the girl who'd won every robotics competition since freshman year. I was the girl whose robot exploded. But here's the thing about being a robotics prodigy. You don't build things without understanding how they work. And Aria? She was more complex than Henderson ever realized. Marcus, I need you to stop looking at me like I'm about to have another breakdown. My best friend was perched on my bedroom floor, watching me dig through a box of what looked like electronic junk. To be fair, I probably did look a little unhinged. It was 2 a.m., I hadn't slept in 36 hours, and I was currently holding what appeared to be a melted circuit board up to the light like it held the secrets of the universe. Which, as it turned out, it kind of did. Maya, Marcus said carefully, it's been 3 months. Maybe it's time to... Time to what? Move on? Accept that Henderson destroyed my entire future and I should just smile and nod? I found what I was looking for, a small, innocuous-looking memory core that had somehow survived the destruction. Or maybe time to stop being such a perfectionist? Marcus winced. We both knew he'd used that word last month during one of his attempts at helping me process the situation. That's not what I meant, and you know it. Do I? I connected the memory core to my laptop, fingers flying over the keyboard. Because for 3 months, everyone's been telling me this was somehow my fault. That I was overambitious. That I couldn't handle pressure. The screen flickered to life and my words died in my throat. Maya? Marcus crawled over to look at the laptop. What is that? Audio files, dozens of them, all automatically created by Aria's backup recording system. A feature I'd programmed for voice command testing, but had completely forgotten about in the trauma of watching my robot die. Holy shit, I breathed, clicking on the most recent file. Henderson's voice filled my bedroom, clear as day. Told you, the Chen Girls project was too advanced. If she'd won nationals, questions would have been asked about how a high school student developed that level of AI sophistication. Another voice, male, unfamiliar. So you destroyed it? I eliminated a problem. Maya's work was based on research I've been developing for years. The last thing I need is some overeager teenager getting credit for my innovations. Marcus grabbed my arm. Maya, are you hearing this? She stole my work, I whispered. She fucking stole my work and then destroyed the evidence. But the recording kept playing, and it got so much worse. What about the harassment complaints? The male voice asked. Handled. Williams will keep quiet. I have enough on him to end his career. And the Chen girl is so traumatized by her failure that she won't be causing any more problems. I felt Marcus's hand tighten on my arm as Henderson's laugh echoed through my speakers. Besides, she continued, who's going to believe a hysterical Asian girl over a decorated educator? I've been playing this game longer than Maya Chen has been alive. The recording ended, leaving my bedroom in dead silence. Maya, Marcus said finally, his voice strangled. What the hell are we sitting on? I looked at the dozens of other audio files, my mind racing. Evidence, I said. We're sitting on evidence. Evidence of what? That Mrs. Henderson is about to get the promotion of a lifetime while being a lying, stealing, racist piece of... Maya, Marcus's voice was sharp. What promotion? I turned to face him, and for the first time in 3 months, I smiled. Really smiled. She's interviewing for state education commissioner next week. It's going to be live streamed to every school district in the state. I gestured to my laptop where Henderson's voice still seemed to echo. And she has no idea that her worthless pile of circuits just handed me the keys to her entire career. Marcus stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, a grin spread across his face. Oh, this is going to be fun. You want to do what now? Dr. Sarah Williams looked at me like I'd just suggested we blow up the school, which, to be fair, would probably be less complicated than what I was actually proposing. I want to rebuild Aria, I repeated, setting my laptop on her desk, with improvements. Williams was the only teacher who'd seemed genuinely upset about my robot's malfunction. She was young, idealistic, and had been Henderson's most vocal critic on the faculty, which probably explained why she was stuck teaching freshman intro classes while Henderson got all the advanced students. Maya, I know you're still processing what happened, but Dr. Williams, I need you to listen to something. I hit play on Henderson's confession, watching Williams' face transform from concerned to horrified to absolutely livid. That bitch, Williams breathed when it ended. That absolute... She caught herself, then looked at me with new eyes. Maya, do you understand what this means? It means she destroyed my robot to steal my work and cover up harassment complaints. Yeah, I'm pretty clear on that part. No, you don't understand. Williams leaned forward, her voice urgent. I've been documenting Henderson's behavior for 2 years. Every female student who suddenly lost interest in advanced robotics. Every project that mysteriously failed right before competitions. Every scholarship recommendation that got mysteriously delayed. She's been doing this to other students? Emma Rodriguez, class of 2023. Her AI won the state fair, then mysteriously developed critical flaws before nationals. Jessica Park, class of 2022. Her facial recognition algorithm was deemed inappropriate for a high school project by Henderson right before MIT scouts were supposed to review it. My stomach twisted. How many? At least a dozen over the past 5 years, all girls, all exceeding Henderson's comfort level. Williams' hands clenched into fists. I tried to report it, but Henderson has connections. She's been the golden child of the district for years. Not for much longer. I pulled up the calendar on my laptop. Her state commissioner interview is live streamed to every district in the state. Primetime viewing for every educator who might be interested in her innovative teaching methods. Williams stared at me for a long moment. You're planning to expose her during the interview. I'm planning to let her expose herself. I gestured to my laptop. All I need is a way to get Aria into that interview room. Maya, this is insane. If you get caught... If I get caught, what? They'll expel me? My college applications are already tanked. They'll say I'm lying. I have recordings. They'll call me a vindictive teenager. Probably. but at least they'll have to explain why their golden child was caught on tape admitting to academic theft and covering up harassment. Williams was quiet for a long time, staring at the laptop screen where the audio file title still glowed. "What do you need?" she finally asked. I grinned. "A lab, some equipment, and someone to teach me how to hack a live stream." "I can handle the first two," Williams said slowly, "but for the third—" "I know someone," Marcus said from the doorway, and we both jumped. He'd been waiting outside Williams' office, but apparently had gotten tired of waiting. "Jesus, Marcus, how long have you been eavesdropping?" "Long enough to know you're planning something completely insane and potentially illegal." He stepped into the office, closing the door behind him. "Also, long enough to know that Emma Rodriguez still goes to school here." Williams and I exchanged glances. "Emma's still here?" "Senior year, just like you. And she's been in journalism club with me all semester, writing expose pieces about educational inequality." Marcus grinned. "Want to guess what her specialty is?" I felt a familiar thrill run through me, the same feeling I got when a particularly complex piece of code finally compiled correctly. "Digital media manipulation?" "Live stream hijacking," Marcus confirmed. "Turns out when your robotics dreams get crushed, you find other ways to be vindictive." Williams buried her face in her hands. "I can't believe I'm about to say this, but when do we start?" I was already pulling up Arya's original schematics, my mind racing with possibilities. "How about right now? This is either the stupidest thing I've ever done or the most brilliant." Emma Rodriguez was exactly what I'd expected from Marcus's description. Sharp, angry, and possessed of the kind of righteous fury that only comes from having your dreams crushed by the same person who was currently destroying mine. We were huddled in Williams' classroom after hours, surrounded by robotics equipment and Emma's intimidating array of computer monitors. She'd agreed to help with an enthusiasm that should probably have worried me. "Why not both?" I suggested, soldering a connection on Arya's new chassis. I've always been an overachiever. "Speaking of overachieving," Emma said, not looking up from her screens, "I've been digging into Henderson's background while you've been building your revenge robot." "Investigation robot," I corrected. "Revenge implies this is personal." Marcus snorted from where he was sorting through cable components. "Right, because none of this is personal at all." "Fine, it's a little personal." I set down my soldering iron and looked at Emma's screens. "What did you find?" "Remember how Henderson said she'd been developing your AI research for years?" Emma pulled up a series of documents. Turns out she wasn't entirely lying. She has been researching AI development. She's also been plagiarizing it. The screen showed academic papers, thesis documents, and research proposals, all with Henderson's name on them. "Look at the dates," Emma continued. "This paper on autonomous learning algorithms, published by Dr. Rebecca Liu in 2019, then mysteriously republished by Henderson in 2021 with significant revisions. This research on natural language processing, originally part of a doctoral dissertation by Dr. James Park, who died in a car accident before he could defend it." Williams leaned over my shoulder to read the screen. "She's been stealing from dead researchers?" "It gets better," Emma said grimly. "Remember that male voice on your recording? I ran voice analysis software against faculty meeting recordings from the past 2 years. A new audio file appeared on screen, labeled with yesterday's date." "Found him," Emma said, hitting play. "Can't keep covering for you, Susan." The same male voice from my recording, tight with stress. "If the state board finds out about the missing research funds—" "They won't," Henderson's voice cut him off. "Because you're going to make sure the audit shows everything is perfectly legitimate." "I can't keep cooking the books forever. Someone's going to notice that $50,000 in equipment purchases mysteriously disappeared." My hand stilled on Arya's chassis. "50,000? "Equipment that was supposed to go to student projects," Emma said. "Equipment that Henderson has been funneling to her private research lab. Want to guess what she's been working on?" She pulled up more files, patent applications, all in Henderson's name, all describing AI systems that looked suspiciously similar to the projects her students had been developing over the past 5 years. "She's been stealing student work, destroying the evidence, then filing patents on the technology," Williams said slowly. She's been building her entire research career on the backs of teenagers. And now she's about to become state education commissioner, I added, where she'll have oversight of every STEM program in the state. Marcus looked up from his cable sorting. How many more students like you do you think she'll destroy? I thought about Jessica Park, about Emma Rodriguez, about the dozen other girls Williams had mentioned. I thought about my little sister Lily, who'd be in Henderson's advanced robotics class next year. None, I said, picking up my soldering iron with new determination. She's not destroying anyone else. Emma's fingers flew over her keyboard. Good, because I just found something that's going to make this a lot easier. A new window opened, the State Education Department's website, specifically the page about Henderson's upcoming interview. She's not just interviewing for commissioner, Emma said. She's giving a presentation on innovative teaching methods and fostering student creativity in STEM education. The irony was so thick I could taste it. How long? I asked. 3 days. I looked at Aria's partially rebuilt chassis, then at Emma's array of equipment, then at Williams and Marcus watching me with expressions of anticipation and terror. Then we'd better get to work. I still think this is insane. Dr. Williams was pacing around her classroom while I put the finishing touches on Aria's new mobility system. Emma was at her computer station, fingers flying over code that I was pretty sure was at least 3 different kinds of illegal. Marcus was testing the backup recording equipment we'd installed throughout Aria's frame. You said that yesterday, I pointed out, and the day before, and approximately 17 times this morning. Because it keeps getting more insane. Williams gestured at Emma's screens, which were currently displaying what looked like the digital architecture of the State Education Building's network. Emma, please tell me you haven't actually hacked into a government facility. Technically, Emma said without looking up from her code, I've performed reconnaissance on publicly available network vulnerabilities. It's not illegal until I actually access restricted systems. Which you're planning to do in approximately, Marcus checked his watch, 6 hours. Details, Emma said cheerfully. Williams collapsed into her desk chair. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my job and probably go to prison, and my mother is going to kill me before the state does. Dr. Williams, I said, setting down my screwdriver and turning to face her. Do you remember why you became a teacher? To educate young minds and foster a love of learning, she recited automatically, then caught herself. Maya, don't you dare try to guilt me into this. I'm not guilting you into anything. I'm reminding you that Henderson has been systematically destroying young minds for years. And if we don't stop her, she's about to get a promotion that'll let her do it on a statewide scale. Williams was quiet for a moment, staring at Aria's rebuilt form. How many more girls like you mean? How many more girls, period, Emma said, finally looking up from her screens. Henderson doesn't just target the overachievers. She goes after anyone who threatens her sense of control. The quiet girls who ask too many questions. The ones who code better than their male classmates. The ones who don't fit her idea of what a good student looks like. Marcus nodded. I've been researching her tenure here. The number of female students who dropped out of advanced STEM classes in her first year was 3 times the historical average. And it's only gotten worse, Williams said quietly. I've watched brilliant girls convince themselves they're not math people or science people after a semester with Henderson. I thought about my sister Lily again, currently a freshman with dreams of studying environmental engineering. Lily, who was smart and curious and determined, exactly the kind of student Henderson loved to break. So what's it going to be, I asked. Are we going to let her keep destroying students, or are we going to do something about it? Williams looked at each of us in turn, me with my rebuilt robot, Emma with her hacking setup, Marcus with his journalist notebook full of evidence. If we get caught, she started. We won't, Emma interrupted. I've been planning this for 2 years, ever since she destroyed my facial recognition project and told me maybe I should consider less technical career paths. And if something goes wrong, then we improvise, I said. But Williams, we're not asking you to do anything illegal. We just need you to keep Henderson distracted while we set up. Williams stared at Aria for a long moment, then sighed deeply. What do you need me to do? Maya, your heart rate is spiking. Arya informed me through my earpiece. Would you like me to activate calming protocols? Not now, I whispered, crouched behind a maintenance cart in the state education building's basement. And definitely not out loud. It was 5 a.m., 2 hours before Henderson's interview, and we were in the middle of what Emma cheerfully called aggressive infrastructure access. I called it breaking and entering, but Emma insisted that since Marcus had legitimate press credentials and I was technically his equipment assistant, we were totally authorized to be here. Maya, Emma's voice crackled through my earpiece. I've got eyes on the interview room. Henderson's already there, running through her presentation. I adjusted Arya's position in my backpack. The new chassis was smaller than the original, designed for stealth rather than demonstration. All of her original AI capabilities were intact, but now she could also record in 4K, hack into wireless networks, and, most importantly, broadcast live video to any device within a 50-mile radius. What's she presenting on? I asked, making my way toward the elevator. Innovative Student Engagement in Advanced STEM Education, Emma replied. I shit you not, that's the actual title. Innovative, Marcus muttered from his position in the press section. Right. The elevator dinged softly as I reached the third floor. Henderson's interview was in conference room 12, according to the schedule Emma had pulled from the state website. I just needed to get Arya into position without being seen by security cameras, staff, or Henderson herself. Marcus, I whispered, how's our distraction looking? Dr. Williams just arrived with Henderson's emergency presentation materials, he reported. Henderson's in the hallway arguing with her about proper procedure. Perfect! I slipped down the corridor toward conference room 12, Arya's weight reassuring against my back. Emma, how are we looking on network access? Give me 30 seconds, she replied. Their security is better than I expected, but not by much. I pressed myself against the wall outside the conference room, listening to Henderson's voice drift through the door. Simply don't understand why this couldn't wait until after the interview, she was saying, her tone sharp with irritation. I apologize, Mrs. Henderson, Williams replied smoothly, but the district insisted these updated materials were crucial for your presentation. Updated materials was code for completely fabricated busy work designed to keep Henderson occupied while I set up her digital downfall. Williams had outdone herself with the performance. Maya, Emma's voice was urgent. Security's doing rounds. You've got maybe 60 seconds before they reach your floor. I slipped into the conference room, grateful that someone had left it unlocked for setup. The space was exactly what I'd expected. Long table, fancy chairs, cameras positioned for optimal live stream coverage, and a presentation screen that would be perfect for my purposes. Arya, I whispered, setting her on the floor behind the presenter's podium. Activate stealth mode. Stealth mode activated, she replied through my earpiece. All external lights disabled, motor sounds minimized. I am now approximately 93% less likely to be detected by casual observation. Only 93%? I cannot account for random chance, Maya. That would be illogical. Even in the middle of what was arguably the most stressful moment of my life, Arya's literal mindedness made me smile. I'd programmed her well. Emma, how's that network access coming? Got it. Arya should be able to connect to the building's wireless now. And Maya, I've already identified the live stream's broadcast system. When you're ready, Arya can override the official feed. I made my way back to the door, listening for Henderson's voice in the hallway. Really think this level of micromanagement is necessary, Henderson was saying. I've been giving presentations longer than some of these commissioners have been in office. Of course, Mrs. Henderson, Williams replied. I just want to make sure everything is perfect for such an important interview. Maya, Marcus's voice crackled through my earpiece. You need to move. Henderson's heading back to the conference room. I slipped out the door and down the hallway, heart pounding. Behind me, I could hear Henderson's heels clicking against the floor as she approached her appointment with Destiny. And Arya. Phase 1 complete, I whispered into my earpiece. Arya's in position. Phase 2 initiating, Emma replied. Maya, you might want to find a good seat. This is going to be one hell of a show. Good morning, Mrs. Henderson. Thank you for joining us today. I was positioned in the building's lobby, surrounded by other district representatives who'd come to watch their potential new commissioner's interview. The live stream played on multiple screens throughout the space, giving me a perfect view of Henderson's performance. She looked confident, poised, every inch the respected educator she pretended to be. Her presentation slides were already loaded, titled Fostering Innovation in Student-Centered STEM Education. The irony was so thick I could choke on it. "Thank you for having me, Commissioner Martinez," Henderson replied smoothly. "I'm excited to discuss my vision for advancing STEM education throughout our state." "Emma," I whispered into my earpiece, pretending to check my phone. "Are you seeing this?" "Every disgusting second," Emma replied. "Aria's fully integrated into their network now. I can take control of the live stream whenever you're ready." "Mrs. Henderson," Commissioner Martinez continued, "your district has seen some remarkable student achievements under your leadership. Can you tell us about your approach to nurturing student innovation?" Henderson's smile was radiant. "Absolutely. I believe in challenging students to exceed their own expectations while providing the scaffolding they need to succeed. For example, just this year, I had a student develop an advanced AI prototype that showed remarkable sophistication." My hands clenched into fists. She was talking about Aria, about my work. "Though unfortunately the project proved too ambitious for a high school setting, it's crucial that we balance encouragement with realistic expectations." "You bitch," I breathed. "Maya," Marcus's voice was tight with anger. "Please tell me you're recording this." "Every word," I confirmed. On screen, Henderson was warming to her theme. "One thing I've learned in my years of education is that students, particularly young women in STEM, often need guidance in understanding their limitations. False confidence can be more damaging than honest feedback." The commissioners were nodding approvingly. Around me in the lobby, district representatives were taking notes, clearly impressed by Henderson's wisdom. "Speaking of honest feedback," I said into my earpiece, "Emma, I think it's time for Mrs. Henderson to hear some." "With pleasure," Emma replied. "Aria, you're live in 3, 2, 1. The change was subtle at first. The official live stream continued, but a small window appeared in the corner of the screen, a window that showed audio waveforms and a timestamp from 3 months ago. "Mrs. Henderson," Commissioner Martinez was saying, "can you elaborate on your methods for identifying students who might be overreaching?" "Certainly," Henderson began, but her voice was suddenly accompanied by another voice, her own voice from the recording Aria had captured. "Told you, the Chen Girls project was too advanced. If she'd won nationals, questions would have been asked." Henderson stopped mid-sentence, her face going pale as she recognized her own words. The commissioners looked confused, checking their equipment. "I'm sorry," Commissioner Martinez said. "There seems to be some audio interference. Maya's work was based on research I've been developing for years. The last thing I need is some overeager teenager getting credit for my innovations." Aha! The lobby around me erupted in confused murmurs. On screen, Henderson's composure was cracking. "There must be some technical malfunction," she said, her voice strained. "Perhaps we could—" But Aria wasn't finished. The small window expanded, and suddenly the entire live stream was showing Henderson's recorded conversation, complete with timestamps and audio analysis confirming it was her voice. "Who's going to believe a hysterical Asian girl over a decorated educator? I've been playing this game longer than Maya Chen has been alive." The silence in the lobby was deafening. Around me, district representatives were staring at the screens in shock. On the main screen, Henderson looked like she was about to vomit. "Mrs. Henderson," Commissioner Martinez's voice was deadly quiet. "Would you care to explain what we're hearing?" This is some kind of sabotage," Henderson stammered. "Someone is trying to discredit me with fabricated—" "Aria," I whispered, "show them the rest." New windows began appearing on the live stream. Patent applications with Henderson's name on research that belonged to dead professors, financial records showing diverted funds, a comprehensive list of female students whose projects had mysteriously failed under her supervision. The audio analysis confirms voice authentication. Aria's synthesized voice announced through the live stream speakers. Additionally, I have documentation supporting each claim made in the recorded conversation. Henderson spun around, searching for the source of the voice, but Aria's stealth mode made her nearly invisible behind the podium. "This is impossible," Henderson said, her voice rising to nearly a shriek. "Whoever is doing this—" "Mrs. Henderson?" Commissioner Martinez interrupted. "Are you claiming this evidence has been fabricated?" Yes, obviously. Some vindictive student has. Henderson caught herself, but it was too late. Which student? Another commissioner asked. The hysterical Asian girl you mentioned in the recording? The lobby around me had gone completely silent. Every person was staring at the screens where their potential new commissioner was having a complete meltdown on live television. Maya, Emma's voice was gleeful in my earpiece. Are you seeing this? She's actually going to confess. And she was. Under pressure from the commissioner's questions and the evidence streaming across the display, Henderson's carefully constructed facade was crumbling. Fine, she snapped. Yes, I destroyed Maya Chen's robot. The girl was becoming a liability, asking too many questions, developing technology beyond her capability to understand. I did what any responsible educator would do. You destroyed student work, Commissioner Martinez said flatly. I prevented a safety hazard. That robot was recording conversations without consent, violating privacy laws. Like this conversation? Aria's voice asked pleasantly, which you are having in a public government building while interviewing for a position of public trust? Henderson's face went purple. She lunged toward the podium, clearly trying to find Aria's source, but stopped when she realized she was attacking empty air on live television. Mrs. Henderson, Commissioner Martinez said, standing up, I think this interview is concluded. But Henderson wasn't finished. 3 months of rage and humiliation boiled over as she turned to face the camera directly. You want to know the truth, she snarled. Yes, I've been taking credit for student work. Yes, I've been filing patents on their innovations. Yes, I destroyed Maya Chen's robot because she was getting too close to technology I've spent years developing. These students think they're so special, so innovative, but they're standing on the shoulders of educators like me who've been doing this work for decades. The live stream cut to a technical difficulties message, but the damage was done. Around me, the lobby erupted in shocked conversation, angry voices, and what sounded like someone calling security. Maya, Marcus's voice was awed. She actually confessed on live television to every single thing. I pulled out my phone and texted Aria, come home. Within minutes, she'd navigated her way out of the conference room and back to me, her stealth mode keeping her invisible to the chaos upstairs. Mission accomplished, she asked through my earpiece. I looked around the lobby at the shocked faces, at the phones being pulled out to make urgent calls, at what was clearly going to become a major scandal for the education department. Mission accomplished, I confirmed. Maya Chen, you are in so much trouble. Principal Davis was trying to look stern, but I could see the corner of his mouth twitching as he fought back a smile. Beside him, my parents wore expressions of mixed pride and exasperation that I was getting very familiar with. How much trouble? I asked innocently. Well, let's see. Davis consulted his notes. Unauthorized access to a government building, disruption of official proceedings, possible hacking charges, and... He paused dramatically. A personal commendation from the state education commissioner for exposing systematic corruption in our district. My mom made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. Maya, we don't know whether to ground you or throw you a party. Why not both? I suggested. I can be grounded at my own party. Dad shook his head. 16 years old and she's already planning her defense strategy. 17, I corrected. My birthday was last week. You probably missed it because you were fielding calls from news outlets. The past week had been a blur of interviews, legal consultations, and what Emma cheerfully called the most epic public meltdown in educational history. Henderson's live-streamed confession had gone viral within hours, spawning memes, news articles, and a federal investigation into educational corruption that had already expanded to 3 other states. Speaking of news outlets, Davis said, apparently MIT would like to speak with you about reinstating your scholarship. Something about being impressed by your innovative approach to justice and advanced robotics integration. I tried to keep my expression neutral, but inside I was doing victory laps. That's nice of them. Nice of them, Mom repeated. Maya, they want to offer you early admission, and a full scholarship, and an internship with their AI ethics department. Plus, Dad added, someone from the state attorney general's office called. They want to hire you as a consultant on educational technology oversight. Principal Davis leaned back in his chair. Maya, I have to ask, Did you plan this entire thing from the beginning? I thought about that for a moment. 3 months ago, I'd been a broken teenager whose dreams had been crushed by a vindictive teacher. Now Henderson was facing criminal charges. I was being recruited by top universities, and Aria was sitting in my backpack, probably eavesdropping on our entire conversation. No, I said finally. I planned to build a robot for competition. Everything else was just problem solving. Davis laughed. Well, your problem solving skills have certainly made an impression. Dr. Williams sends her regards, by the way. She's been named interim head of the robotics department. And Henderson? Suspended pending investigation. The district is conducting a full review of every student she's taught in the past 5 years. Davis's expression grew serious. Maya, there were a lot of students whose work was destroyed or stolen. The state is setting up a fund to help them rebuild their projects and apply for scholarships. I thought about Emma, about Jessica Park, about all the girls whose dreams Henderson had crushed. Good, I said. They deserve that. There's something else, Mom said, pulling out her phone. Your sister called. She wanted to tell you something. She hit speakerphone and Lily's voice filled the office. Maya, oh my God, you're like internet famous. Everyone at school is talking about how my sister took down the evil robot teacher. Evil robot teacher, I repeated. That's what we're calling her. Way cooler than corrupt educator, don't you think? Anyway, I just wanted to say, Lily's voice got serious. Thank you. I was supposed to have Henderson next year, and after what she did to you, I was really scared. But now I don't have to be. My throat tightened. Lily, you saved me, Maya. You saved all of us. You're like a superhero, except with better hair and way cooler gadgets. I looked down at my backpack where Aria was probably recording this entire conversation for her memory banks. I'm not a superhero, Lily. I'm just someone who got really, really pissed off. Same thing, Lily said cheerfully. Anyway, I have to go. My robotics club wants to build a Maya Chen memorial robot. Is that weird? Very weird, I confirmed, but also kind of awesome. After Lily hung up, the office fell into comfortable silence. So, Principal Davis said finally, what's next for Maya Chen, teen vigilante? I considered this. A week ago, my biggest concern had been whether MIT would take me back. Now, I had options I'd never dreamed of. Opportunities to make sure what happened to me never happened to anyone else. I think, I said slowly, I want to build more robots. Maya, you have 17 interview requests, 12 scholarship offers, and one very weird proposition from Netflix about a documentary series. Marcus was sprawling across my bedroom floor, laptop balanced on his knees as he scrolled through my suddenly overwhelming email inbox. Emma was at my desk, debugging the latest version of Aria's surveillance protocols while Dr. Williams sat in my desk chair looking like she still couldn't quite believe any of this was real. Netflix? I asked, looking up from the circuit board I was working on. What kind of documentary? Teen Tech Vigilantes, the new generation of digital justice, Marcus read. They want to follow you and Aria as you fight corruption through innovative robotic solutions. Emma snorted. Please tell me you're not actually considering that. Why not? I grinned. Think of the college application essay material. How I spent my summer vacation, destroying corrupt educators one robot at a time. Williams shook her head. Maya, I know this has all been exciting, but maybe it's time to think about getting back to normal teenage activities. You know, dating, parties, not planning the digital downfall of authority figures. But that's the thing, I said, setting down my soldering iron. I've been getting messages from students all over the country. Girls whose teachers have stolen their work, kids whose projects mysteriously fail right before competitions, students who've been told they're not technical enough for advanced classes. I pulled up my email on my laptop, scrolling through the messages that had been flooding in since Henderson's public meltdown. Listen to this one, I said. Dear Maya, my computer science teacher told me girls aren't good at programming and suggested I switch to digital art. Then I found out he's been taking credit for female students' code in his research papers. Or this one. My robotics project disappeared from the lab the night before regionals. My teacher said I must have forgotten to save my work properly, but I know I locked it in the secure cabinet. Emma looked up from her coding. How many messages? Over 300 from 42 states. I scrolled through the endless list of names and stories. Henderson wasn't unique. She was just part of a pattern. Williams leaned forward. Maya, what are you thinking? I gestured to Aria, who was currently running diagnostics on her new surveillance equipment. I'm thinking Aria and I have gotten really good at exposing corruption, and I'm thinking there are a lot more corrupt educators out there who think they're untouchable. Maya, Marcus said carefully, are you planning to become some kind of robot-wielding vigilante? Not vigilante, I corrected. Investigator, consultant, whatever you want to call someone who helps students document and expose systematic abuse. Emma's fingers stilled on her keyboard. You want to scale this up. I want to make sure no other student has to choose between staying silent and risking everything to speak up. I pulled up a new document on my laptop. Aria can be replicated. Her surveillance protocols can be adapted for different situations, and with the right network on. You could monitor dozens of schools simultaneously. Williams finished, her voice mixing awe and terror. Hundreds eventually. Anonymous reporting systems, automated evidence collection, secure data transmission to appropriate authorities. I was getting excited now, the same feeling I'd had when I first designed Aria. A comprehensive system for protecting students from educators who abuse their power. Marcus closed his laptop and looked at me seriously. Maya, what you're describing sounds a lot like a surveillance state. No, I said firmly. What I'm describing is accountability. Teachers like Henderson get away with abuse because they know students have no power, no voice, no way to prove what's happening to them. But if students had access to objective documentation, you'd level the playing field, Emma said slowly. Exactly. No more he said, she said. No more students being told they're lying or overreacting. Just evidence. Williams was quiet for a long moment, staring at Aria's small form on my desk. The ethical implications are staggering, she said finally. Privacy concerns, legal issues, the potential for misuse. All valid concerns, I agreed, which is why this needs to be done right, with proper oversight and clear protocols. That's why I need people like you involved. People like me? Educators who care about students more than protecting the system. Journalists who know how to verify and publish evidence responsibly. Technologists who understand both the capabilities and limitations of surveillance systems. I looked around my bedroom at the three people who'd helped me expose Henderson, who'd risked their own futures to make sure the truth came out. I can't do this alone, I said. I don't want to do this alone. But I also can't just go back to normal teenage life knowing what I know now. Emma saved her code and turned to face me. What would this look like, practically? I get into MIT, study AI ethics and educational technology. You finish high school and meet me there for computer science. Marcus studies journalism and helps us develop ethical reporting protocols. Dr. Williams works on the educational policy side, figuring out how to implement these systems within existing frameworks. You've thought about this, Marcus observed. I've thought about nothing else for the past week. I pulled up another document, pages of notes, sketches, and preliminary designs. Look, I know it sounds crazy, but a week ago, everyone thought exposing Henderson was crazy too. Williams stood up and walked to my window, looking out at the suburban street where nothing had changed except everything had changed. Maya, she said quietly, do you understand what you're proposing? You're talking about fundamentally altering the power dynamic between students and teachers. That kind of change? It doesn't happen quietly. Good, I said. I'm tired of quiet. Quiet is what lets people like Henderson destroy students for years without consequences. Williams turned back to face me, and I could see her making some kind of internal decision. If, and I mean if, we were to seriously consider this, she said, we'd need legal advice, institutional support, and a very careful rollout strategy. Emma grinned. So that's a yes. That's a let's see if we can find a way to do this without ending up in federal prison, Williams corrected. Marcus reopened his laptop. Well, lucky for us, I know some lawyers and some investigative journalists and at least 3 professors who specialize in educational ethics. I looked at Aria, sitting quietly on my desk, her sensors tracking our conversation even when she appeared to be inactive. Aria, I said, what do you think? Ready to help protect some more students? Maya, Aria replied, her synthesized voice carrying what I swear sounded like anticipation. I was designed to assist and protect. Expanding my operational parameters to serve a larger population of students would be a logical evolution of my primary functions. Besides, she added, and I definitely detected smugness in her tone, I rather enjoyed watching Mrs. Henderson's public humiliation. I believe humans call this satisfying. I laughed, and for the first time since Henderson destroyed my original robot, I felt like everything was going to be okay. Better than okay. All right, team, I said, cracking my knuckles and turning back to my laptop. Let's build something that's going to change everything. 6 months later, I was standing in a lab at MIT that was 3 times the size of my high school's entire science department, surrounded by equipment that would have made my teenage self weep with joy. But the best part wasn't the resources or the prestigious university letterhead on my acceptance letter. The best part was the email on my laptop screen. ARIA network deployment successful, I read aloud to my team, who were scattered around the lab working on various components of what we'd officially named the Student Advocacy and Protection System, or SAPS, as Marcus insisted on calling it, because he found acronyms hilarious. Deployment site? Emma asked from her workstation, where she was debugging the latest version of our anonymized reporting protocols. Lincoln High School in Oregon. Student reported systematic grade manipulation and inappropriate behavior by a chemistry teacher. ARIA Unit 23 documented everything over a 2-week period. Williams, who was visiting from her new position as a policy consultant with the Department of Education, looked up from her legal briefings. And the outcome? Teacher suspended pending investigation. Principal implementing new oversight protocols. 3 other students came forward with similar experiences. I scrolled through the rest of the report. Clean, documented, by-the-book evidence gathering that gave students the proof they needed to be believed. How many active deployments do we have now? Marcus asked. He was technically still in high school, but spent his afternoons at MIT working on our media and communication strategy. 47, I replied, across 12 states, with a waiting list of over 200 schools. It had been a long journey from my bedroom to this lab. The legal hurdles alone had taken months to navigate, requiring consultations with privacy experts, educational attorneys, and ethics committees. We'd had to develop comprehensive protocols for evidence handling, strict limitations on surveillance scope, and rigorous oversight mechanisms to prevent abuse of the system. But it was working. Students who would have suffered in silence now had a way to document and report abuse safely. Teachers who thought they were untouchable were discovering that accountability could come in the form of a small, unobtrusive robot that remembered everything. Maya, Emma said, you should see this. She'd pulled up a news article on her screen. Former teacher sentenced in grade manipulation scandal. The photo showed a familiar face. Mr. Patterson from Lincoln High, the chemistry teacher whose abuse ARIA Unit 23 had documented. 18 months, I read, plus restitution to affected students and permanent prohibition from teaching. And look at this, Marcus added, pulling up another article. The Oregon Department of Education is implementing statewide policies based on our recommendation framework. Williams smiled. It's almost like giving students a voice and evidence to back it up changes everything. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and grinned. What is it? Emma asked. Message from Lily. She got into the advanced robotics program at her school. Apparently, they have a new teacher who actually encourages students instead of crushing their dreams. Progress, Marcus said solemnly. Small steps, Williams agreed. But I was thinking about something bigger than small steps. In the corner of the lab, my latest project was taking shape. ARIA's next-generation successor, designed with enhanced capabilities and broader applications. Because the thing about systematic problems is that they're never limited to just one system. Educational abuse was just the beginning. There were students being failed by guidance counselors who steered them away from challenging courses based on race or gender. There were administrators who covered up harassment. There were patterns of discrimination and abuse that extended far beyond any single classroom. Maya? Arya's voice came from the speaker system we'd integrated throughout the lab. You have that expression again. What expression? The one that indicates you are planning something ambitious and potentially disruptive to existing power structures. Emma laughed. She knows you too well. What are you thinking about? Williams asked. I gestured to my computer screen, where our deployment map showed ARIA units scattered across the country, each one representing students who no longer had to face abuse alone. I'm thinking about scale, I said, about what happens when we move beyond just documenting what's happening in schools. Maya, Marcus said warningly, please tell me you're not planning to overthrow the entire education system. Not overthrow, I corrected. Reform? Revolutionize. Make it actually work for students instead of protecting the people who harm them. I pulled up a new project file I'd been working on. Preliminary designs for systems that could monitor everything from college admissions practices to workplace harassment, from healthcare discrimination to housing inequality. The technology we've developed for schools can be adapted for any environment where power imbalances lead to abuse, I explained. Students aren't the only people who need protection from corrupt institutions. Williams looked at my designs with the same mixture of awe and terror she'd worn when I first proposed taking down Henderson. Maya, she said slowly, what you're describing sounds like a comprehensive system for holding powerful people accountable for their actions, I finished. Yeah, I know, revolutionary concept. Emma was scrolling through my project notes, her eyes getting wider with each page. Maya, this is huge. Like, change the fundamental structure of society, huge. Good, I said. Society could use some fundamental changes. My phone buzzed again. Another text from a student in Texas, whose ARIA unit had just documented systematic plagiarism by her English teacher. Another victory, another life changed, another step toward a world where abuse couldn't hide behind institutional authority. Besides, I added, looking around at my team, at Emma's brilliant coding skills, at Marcus's journalistic integrity, at Williams' policy expertise, at ARIA's expanding network of digital witnesses. We've gotten pretty good at this. Marcus closed his laptop and looked at me seriously. Maya, are you sure you're ready for this? What you're proposing, it's going to make a lot of powerful people very angry. I thought about Henderson, about her shocked face when she realized her worthless pile of circuits had recorded her confession. I thought about all the students whose messages still filled my inbox, kids who'd been told they weren't smart enough, weren't good enough, weren't worth protecting. I thought about my sister Lily, building robots in a classroom where she was encouraged rather than discouraged, learning in an environment where her teachers had to treat students with respect because they knew someone was watching. You know what? I said, saving my project files and standing up to face my team. Let them be angry. Angry people make mistakes, and ARIA's really good at documenting mistakes. The lab's speaker system crackled, and ARIA's voice filled the space with what I swear sounded like satisfaction. Maya, she said, I believe humans have a saying about this situation. Bring it on. I grinned and looked around at my team, at our expanding network of digital guardians, at the future we were building one circuit and one line of code at a time. Yeah, I said, bring it on. Epilogue. 2 years later, I was sitting in a congressional hearing room, testifying before the House Subcommittee on Education and Technology about the Student Advocacy and Protection System. Aria sat on the table beside me, her latest chassis sleek and professional, designed to look reassuring rather than threatening to the lawmakers who were deciding whether our system should be implemented nationwide. Ms. Chen, the committee chair said, can you summarize for us how your system has impacted educational outcomes in the pilot schools? I looked at my notes, but I didn't really need them. The numbers were burned into my memory. Since implementation began 18 months ago, participating schools have seen a 67% decrease in reported incidents of educator misconduct, a 43% increase in female student enrollment in advanced STEM courses, and a 91% improvement in student confidence reporting when measuring safety and support in academic environments. And the cost to implement? Approximately $800 per unit, with annual maintenance costs of roughly $50. Compare that to the average cost of a single lawsuit related to educational misconduct, which runs about $40,000 in legal fees alone. The committee members exchanged glances. Behind me, I could see Emma in the gallery giving me a thumbs up. Marcus was live tweeting the hearing, and Williams was providing expert commentary to the education reporters in attendance. Miss Chen, another committee member, said, "Some critics have argued that your system creates an atmosphere of distrust between students and educators. How do you respond to that concern?" I leaned forward slightly, thinking about Henderson, about all the students whose stories had led us here. "Representative Johnson," I said, "I'd argue that distrust already existed. The difference is that now it's balanced. Teachers who treat students with respect have nothing to fear from documentation. Teachers who abuse their power, well, they shouldn't be teaching anyway." The room was quiet for a moment. Then the committee chair smiled. "Miss Chen, pending final committee approval, we're prepared to authorize a national pilot program for your student advocacy and protection system. Congratulations." As the hearing room erupted in applause, I looked down at Arya, whose sensors were undoubtedly recording every moment for her expanding archives of justice. "Ready for the big leagues?" I whispered. "Maya," Arya replied, her voice carrying what I'd learned to recognize as excitement. "I was built for this." And she was. We all were.